I was sitting at the kitchen counter, my coffee growing cold in my hand, staring at my phone. The text from my son had been sitting there for 15 minutes, and I'd read it at least 20 times. "Mom, can we talk? I really need your advice about something important." "It's about..." "Well, it's kind of personal." My mind immediately started racing. What could it be? Financial trouble? School problems? Then another message appeared. "It's about getting into a relationship, like a real one." I don't know who else to ask. Suddenly, I was transported back to being 19 years old, uncertain, afraid of judgment, desperately wishing I had someone to talk to who wouldn't make me feel ashamed. I set down my mug and typed back, "I'm always here for you, honey. Come home whenever you're ready to talk." My son Tyler had just turned 19 3 months ago. Since his father and I divorced when he was 9, we'd built something rare, a relationship without walls. I'd worked deliberately to be someone he could approach with anything, no matter how uncomfortable. But this was territory we'd never navigated together. 25 minutes later, I heard his key in the lock. He came in wearing his usual hoodie, hands shoved deep in his pockets, looking exactly like the nervous kid I used to read bedtime stories to. I'd settled onto the couch, and when he sank into the armchair across from me, the air felt heavy with unspoken words. "I don't really know how to start this," he said quietly, his eyes fixed on the floor. "You've already started," I told him gently, "and I'm honored that you felt safe enough to reach out." Part 2, opening up. Tyler took a deep breath, then the words came tumbling out. "I've been seeing someone, her name's Emma, and things are getting serious. I think we're heading toward being intimate, and I'm honestly terrified. I've never done any of this before. I don't want to mess it up or hurt her or make a fool of myself. And I literally have no one else I can talk to about this." He looked like he wanted to disappear into the cushions. I gave him a moment to breathe before responding. "First, thank you for trusting me with this. What you just did took tremendous courage. I'm not here to judge you or embarrass you. I want you to feel prepared, confident, and respectful, whatever decisions you make." His shoulders visibly relaxed as he exhaled what seemed like weeks of held tension. "I want it to mean something," he continued. "I don't want to feel guilty or wrong about it afterward. There's so much pressure from everywhere, friends, social media, everything. And the stuff I see online just seems so disconnected from anything real." In that moment, I understood. He didn't need a biology lesson. He needed someone to help him navigate the emotional complexity of intimacy, something the internet, his friends, and certainly his absent father couldn't provide. We talked for over an hour, about relationships built on mutual respect, about boundaries and how to communicate them clearly, about honoring both himself and whoever he chose to share intimacy with. I explained that being intimate doesn't magically transform you into a different person. It's simply one step in learning about vulnerability, trust, and emotional connection with another human being. He asked real questions, honest ones. And I answered with the same honesty. Not like a textbook, but like a mother who wanted her son to move forward with clarity and self-assurance instead of anxiety and peer pressure. Part 3, practice and preparation. Then he asked something I never expected. "Would it be weird if we, practiced?" I blinked. "Practiced? Not the physical part," he said quickly, his face flushing. "I mean practicing the conversations. How to talk about this stuff with Emma. How to make sure she's comfortable. How to express what I'm feeling. I'm scared I'll freeze up when it actually matters." I thought about it for a moment. "You mean rehearsing how to communicate about intimacy?" He nodded eagerly. "Exactly. So we did exactly that. We role-played different scenarios together, how to talk about readiness, how to ask for and respect consent, how to check in with your partner, how to be emotionally open without shame or awkwardness. It felt strange at first, I won't lie. But gradually, the discomfort faded. We even found ourselves laughing at certain moments, which helped ease the tension. By the end, Tyler said, "This is the first time I actually understand what emotional connection means. Not just the physical stuff everyone talks about. That's because connection comes first," I told him. "Everything else follows from that foundation." Part 4, growth and change. The days that followed brought a noticeable shift in Tyler. He seemed more thoughtful, more comfortable in his own skin. One afternoon, he came home and said, "I actually talked to Emma today, really talked, about my feelings and what I want and what I'm nervous about." He paused, looking almost surprised. "And she didn't think I was weird. She said she was relieved I brought it up because she was nervous too." "That's what happens when you're authentic," I told him. Real vulnerability creates space for connection. About a week later, he appeared in my doorway late one evening, looking more nervous than I'd seen him since that first conversation. "I bought these," he said, pulling a small box from his pocket. "Condoms. I'm not sure I'm ready yet, but I wanted to be prepared when the time feels right." I looked at the box, then at him, and felt an overwhelming sense of pride. "That's exactly the kind of mature thinking that shows you're on the right path," I said. "Being ready means preparing yourself in every way, emotionally, mentally, and practically." He smiled, genuine relief crossing his face. "Thanks, Mom. I seriously couldn't have this conversation with anyone else." Part 5. The relationship deepens. The following weekend, I overheard part of a phone conversation with Emma. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but I caught enough to know he was being thoughtful, respectful, and genuine. He was discussing boundaries, confirming feelings, making absolutely sure they were on the same page about everything. When he finished the call and came to say goodnight, he hugged me. Not the quick side squeeze I'd grown accustomed to, but a real hug. The kind that communicates gratitude without needing words. I lay awake that night not from worry but from recognition. I'd just watched my son take his first real steps into adulthood. Not through secrecy or rebellion, but through honesty, courage, and trust. A few weeks later, Tyler came home with an enormous smile on his face. "I think I'm falling in love with her," he announced. "And does she feel the same way?" "I think so. We just fit, you know? It's not even about the physical stuff anymore. I can be completely myself around her. We can talk about anything." That's when it hit me. What began as a conversation about physical intimacy had evolved into something far more profound. It had become a defining moment in his development. One that taught him about emotional availability, personal responsibility, and compassion. Part 6. The lesson. And it taught me something too. Parenting isn't just about protecting your children from making mistakes. It's about helping them understand themselves. About being that safe harbor they can return to when everything else feels overwhelming and confusing. So no, I didn't shut him down. I didn't react with discomfort or judgment. I listened. I offered guidance. And most importantly, I showed him that real love, the lasting kind, grows from trust, not from fear or shame. If I had reacted differently, if I had closed that door or made him feel ashamed for asking, he might have sought answers in all the wrong places. He might have learned about intimacy from sources that treated it as purely physical, devoid of emotional connection. Instead, we created a moment of connection that will stay with both of us forever. Part 7. Moving forward. 3 months after that initial conversation, Tyler and Emma are still together. I've met her several times now. She's kind, intelligent, and clearly cares deeply about my son. More importantly, I can see how Tyler has grown. He's more confident in expressing his feelings. He's more thoughtful about how his actions affect others. He approaches relationships with intentionality rather than anxiety. Last week, he told me, "You know what's crazy, Mom? Most of my friends are either too embarrassed to talk about this stuff, or they're getting all their information from the worst possible sources. I keep thinking how lucky I am that I could actually talk to you." "You know what's even crazier?" I replied. "Most parents are too uncomfortable to have these conversations. So kids end up navigating something incredibly important with absolutely no guidance." He nodded thoughtfully. "I want to be the kind of parent you are someday. The kind kids can actually talk to." That comment meant more to me than he could possibly know. Epilogue. Reflections. Looking back on that day when I first saw Tyler's text message, I remember the nervousness I felt. The uncertainty about whether I could handle this conversation appropriately. But I've learned something crucial. Our children don't need us to be perfect. They need us to be present. They need us to be honest. They need us to create a space where difficult conversations can happen without judgment. Tyler's willingness to come to me with something so personal wasn't accidental. It was the result of years of building trust, of showing him that I valued honesty over performance, vulnerability over pretense. As parents, we spend so much time trying to protect our children from the world, but sometimes the most protective thing we can do is prepare them for it, with wisdom, compassion, and open dialogue. I didn't have that kind of support when I was Tyler's age. I made choices based on pressure, confusion, and misinformation. I learned through painful trial and error rather than thoughtful guidance. But I was able to give my son something different. A foundation of communication, a model of what healthy relationships look like, the confidence to approach intimacy as something meaningful rather than something to be ashamed of or reckless about. And honestly, I wouldn't change a single thing about how it all unfolded, because at the end of the day, parenting isn't about avoiding difficult conversations, it's about leaning into them. It's about being the person your child needs, even when it makes you uncomfortable. And if I've taught Tyler anything, I hope it's this: that love, real lasting love, is built on trust, respect, communication, and emotional courage. Those are lessons that will serve him far better than anything he could learn from anywhere else.